Shabbat Bereshit is always a special time of year. After reading the entire Torah, we roll it all the way back to the beginning and return to the stories that form humanity and the Jewish people. Returning to the beginning of the Torah allows us to enter our new year, filled with new perspectives, using our recent experiences to help us connect to the Torah personally. We are different than we were a year ago, so a new verse or idea may jump out of the page at us this year. Perhaps we never even noticed it before. This is the joy of Torah learning and embarking on a new year of reading the Torah. Each year, immediately after the High Holy Day season comes to a conclusion, we quickly turn to the first few verses of our Torah. The questions we have been asking ourselves over the past few weeks, we return and ask again this morning at the very beginning of the Torah. Who am I? What is the nature of a human being? And what is my personal uniqueness? Every society throughout history has attempted to answer this fundamental question. And what is our Jewish answer to the question, who am I? In this morning's Parsha, there are actually two versions of creation that are told, and each one tries to answer this question. At the very end of chapter 1, the Torah says, Vayivra Elohim et Hadam b'tzalmo, b'tzelem Elohim bara oto, zachar u'necheva bara otam. And God created humanity in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The human being was created in God's image. But what is God's image? We don't depict our God, and we believe that our God is beyond human comprehension. So how does the depiction of God's image help us understand our true nature? What qualities of God does the Torah want us to learn and to incorporate into our lives? While the Torah actually never defines God's image, we can already learn some important lessons in the first chapter. First of all, God is a creator who carefully constructs, assesses, and evaluates the final product. We know this because after each creation, God says, it was very good. Another important lesson of God's creative process reveals something unique about God's image, and hopefully humanity's image as well. Clearly, God had the ability to create the world in an instant. So why did God break it up into 6 distinct units? A closer look at creation and what was actually created on each day reveals a divine plan. On day 1, God created light and darkness. That is paired with day 4, when God created the sun, the moon, and the stars. On day 2, God created the sky and the waters. On day 5, God created the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea. On day 3, God created land, and on day 6, God created the animals and humanity to roam the land. This breakdown highlights that the 6 days of creation are 2 parallel sets of 3 days of creation. During the first 3 days, God created the domains that would be filled by their respective creatures on the succeeding 3 days. The world was not created in 6 days because of God's limitations, but rather to allow us a glimpse of God's image and consequently our own. The present is the starting point for the future. For creation to be very good, one must always strive for how to improve the future. The second version of creation that's found in chapter 2 presents a very different answer to the question of who am I? The Torah says, and the Lord God formed humanity from the dust of the earth and blew into him the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The human being is thus created by two opposite elements, dust and soul. There are two distinct rival forces present within every individual, two voices struggling to be heard and to gain control. The dust component represents the physical, mortal dimension. This is the physical drive that primarily seeks self-satisfaction in the present. The dust voice is expressed in the bodily needs of eating, sleeping, survival, and reproduction. The drive is mostly focused on the self and what the individual can take from the world. The soul voice offers a very different message. The soul is the spiritual dimension of the human being. The soul is not connected to human needs, so the soul can continuously instruct the individual to consider the greater picture and look beyond their own needs. The soul encourages us not to take from, but rather to contribute to the greater welfare of all. Thus, according to the second account of creation, the human being's essence is inherently in conflict. Two voices struggling for satisfaction, both with very different concerns. In order to relieve this tension, many religions have prioritized or relegated one of these components. However, Judaism recognized that they were both created by God, and they both possess the potential to be very good. For Judaism, neither voice must be crushed. Rather, we must learn to live with both of them. We must feed ourselves and our own enjoyment, and at the same time, determine how we can best contribute to the continual creation of the world. According to the second version of creation, humans are constantly in a state of conflict, and we are forever challenged to solve this conflict positively. To escape from this tension is actually to escape the very essence of being a human being. The first two chapters of our Torah leave us with a truly optimistic and challenging answer to the question, who am I? On one side, we must constantly strive and put into action how we can take the realities of today and add to them to bring our world a little closer to perfection in the future. We must act like God and take the present and make the future very good. At the same time, we must learn to live positively with the competing voices in our mind. To be full human beings, we need both voices. And to make things very good, we must learn to live successfully with both of them. Who am I? Is a unique question. And as a human being, we have the special opportunity to learn from God, emulate God, and make our lives in the world very good. The Torah begins at this very moment, so that each of us can carry this question with us throughout the entire year. Spend the rest of the annual Torah reading cycle trying to answer it before we return to the same question next year, but perhaps as very different people. Shabbat Shalom.